Grocery shopping hacks for saving money. I'm just flabbergasted about what I'm paying for groceries. Let's talk about this and so much more.
What's up, guys? Today we have another Q&A session for you. So we're going to kick it off with the last question and we'll dive in from there.
I get this question a lot in my personal Q&As that I do on Instagram, like how much do you guys spend on groceries each week? And I think it's
disgusting.
Well, yeah, but it feels like a little bit of an like everybody has different income and different budgets when it comes to certain things. And I mean, what would you say is our average weekly spend on groceries? And that's like, we'll go to Costco like every other week or every third week. We'll go to Stop and Shop a couple times a week to stock up on like if we need something special for dinner. But what would you say on average is our weekly spend?
It's probably close to $500 a week. Every 3-ish days, it could be $200 to $300. That's not including ButcherBox. That's not including Costco. So that's just like the frequent essentials. So if the more frequent essentials, what do you mean? What are you looking at?
I would say that's including Costco.
No, it's not. Anytime we go to Stop and Shop, it's between $200 and $300. And we go to Stop and Shop specifically, or if we swap that out for Whole Foods, it's going to be even more. Usually 2-ish times a week. So if you average $250 per trip on that, it might be just under $500.
I would say it's slightly under.
Slightly under $500 a week, not including our bi-weekly Costco run, not including ButcherBox. And those are kind of bonuses. So we do save money with ButcherBox. We do save money with Costco. We don't, Costco isn't typically our day-to-day essentials. Like our fruits and veggies, we'll do a big grab. But a lot of times you get so many, and it's a good price, but you get so many that they go bad. So it doesn't really make sense to do a bulk run on potatoes and a bulk run on, berries that will get moldy in the fridge. And
berries are always eaten in this house. All of our children eat berries.
Fair. Maybe that's a bad example. But the potatoes, we never go through a Costco bag of potatoes,
True.
Stuff like
it's
that.
Usually the potatoes.
So the daily stuff, the munchies, those are usually through, our local grocery store, Stop and Shop. And then Costco is the bigger stuff where we can really bulk up on toiletries and stuff like that.
And listen, some of you, the price of everything right now is ridiculous, groceries especially, but some of you might be like, wow, they spend a lot of money on food. Do you need to spend that much to eat healthy? No. But I will say we also are not people who drink alcohol. We're not spending $0 on any kind of drink or liquid. And we go out sparingly. I wouldn't say we go out regularly. I think at most we'll do like a weekly breakfast date, which is breakfast. So yes, we do like to spend a lot of money on food, but for us, it's like the most important thing we could possibly spend money on. So we don't try to necessarily cut corners there because there are other areas that we just do not partake in regularly, like alcohol, which probably alone saves us tens of thousands of dollars per year. So I just would like to throw in that caveat, like, yeah, we spend a lot of money on food. Yes, we like to buy specific types of food, but it's a give and take of other areas that most people are probably spending a lot more on.
Yeah, and you also have to factor into, like, we'll go out and we'll pay for a couple pounds of wild-caught salmon or tuna or, once in a while mix it up and you're hooked on the filet mignon from Whole Foods. So grass-fed and finished filet mignon. It's not just like $30 a pound or so. But I will say, so to go back to the Costco ButcherBox, there are things out there where you can buy, quality foods in bulk. So for us, ButcherBox is something that we've actually had to put a pause on because we haven't been going through that box of meat.
It just sits in our freezer.
It doesn't just sit, but there's so much that it takes a while to run through. We do use that exclusively for steak. So I've been terrible as far as cycling frozen fish and things like that. Once in a while, we'll grab like scallops from ButcherBox. So they do all kinds of meat. So beef, they do pork, they do chicken, they do fish. But really, we wanted to get some high quality, organic, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. So we just use that for the steaks instead of spending, again, $20-$30 a pound on that quality, going to Whole Foods or whatever local. So there are ways you have to do a little investigating. You find your basket bundle grocery type hauls, but it's not cheap. That said, we compromise in other areas to make sure we can put that amount of money in our food because, it's one of the pillars, nutrition, one of our 5 pillars. We're moving, we're training, focusing on mindset and lifestyle and our habits. That all, I don't want to say it all goes to the wayside, but if we're not eating well, those things are not capitalized on to the extent that they should be.
Yeah. And I would argue too, like a lot of people who do order takeout or eat out regularly, like we don't
Adds up fast.
Well, we don't live in an area where like people can just deliver us food fast. Like
I think they're starting to on some of them.
It's much faster to just go get it though. Like, and we don't have a ton of restaurants in our town. We have a handful, but when you are constantly eating out and ordering out, and even if it's healthy stuff, quote unquote, that adds up so fast. And honestly, that's probably the majority of the population right now is just, it's so easy to DoorDash something. So if you are wanting to eat healthier and if you are trying to budget this a little bit better, just cook as much as you possibly can in your house. That's literally going to save you a lot of money every single week.
It definitely got to a point where we were trying to go out and because we work from home, the kids are home, we don't leave the house. So our event would try to be to go out and do something. And we try to order healthy-ish food and we just come home feeling like crap. It didn't taste good. Like when we make it at home, it just tastes way better. We know what's going into the food. So it just totally stopped being a draw anyway. But I mean, that's probably a plus because, between us and 2 kids who are actually eating quite a bit at this point, you can't go out for less than $150 for dinner. Breakfast is still like $70 for us, $60-$70. So it's just, doing that once a week, figure once a week, $150 a week, that's $600 a month on eating out for one meal that just made you feel like crap and didn't taste as good as if you made it yourself. So now we try to take that experience. And again, we're locked up at home, but we'll try to make it experience. We'll do a healthy pizza night where we build our own pizzas and, the steaks, we're putting different things on and, making them taste good and we feel 1,000 times better. So it's a give and take. If you're talking just groceries, yeah, $500 a week sounds pretty significant. But when you factor in what that's saving us by going out and doing those other things, granted it's an experience, it does even out a bit.
All right, moving on. I've been dealing with a knee injury for months, and any type of squat or lunge sends me into a week-long recovery. What are your favorite alternatives that would be beneficial? That one's rough because, most leg movements incorporate some type of squat or lunge pattern. But it sounds like you could possibly be doing more hinging movements. So if, you're doing any kind of squat and it just isn't working out, you don't need to squat or lunge to have long-term success. Hopefully you're working with a PT who is helping you recover from this injury, but focus on your hinging pattern. So things, deadlift variations, maybe a reverse lunge doesn't feel good, but you can do some type of lateral lunge or something in that plane. Hard to say without knowing exactly what it is, but know that you don't have to complete specific exercises to yield a result. However, most leg exercises are squat or lunge dominant exercises. But you got to work around it. Like with any injury, you have to focus on what you can do. And does this mean you have to stop lifting altogether? No, maybe you switch to more of an upper body focused program for a little bit until this calms down and you focus on, a lighter leg day with more of those hinging patterns, calf raises, things like that. And then once it does start to feel better, hopefully
you can have some great calves by the end of this.
Hopefully the PT you're working with can help you slowly incorporate progressively these movements again so that it doesn't cause pain, then you should be good to go.
And also make sure, especially with some type of knee, impairment, that you're actually going through an optimal movement pattern, that you're, balancing weight the right way, that your form overall looks good. Any little tweak in that regard, especially if you're dealing with that knee thing right from the get-go, it's going to be a setback. So PT to, build those muscles back up, remove that knee pain, inflammation, work through that. And then once you are on a path where you can start implementing those movements again at a lighter weight, just making sure you're dialed in with optimal form.
Okay. Being on a preconception journey while also having fat loss goals, how do I approach? Hoping to try sometime in March or April, but working on getting in a better health and fitness position before we start trying. I think that's great. And it's great that you're focusing on this now. We touched on this. I think that was the last episode.
I think it was a couple weeks ago.
How, trying to conceive and getting your body ready for pregnancy is really just getting in optimal health. That's just all of the things that we talk about here on the podcast all the time. There's not like a separate route that you need to take there. If you are in optimal health, your chances of conceiving go up. So if you are somebody who is overweight right now and fat loss is going to be beneficial to this journey, then it's important to focus on that now, and then hopefully be done with that phase before you start trying, because you don't want to necessarily be in a deficit while you're trying either, because that is a stressor on your body. So you want, your cycle to be regular. You want your health to be just peak health, which would probably mean maintenance for most people. So I would say cut now, cut sooner. How long kind of depends on your approach with your cut, and then either reverse diet out of it or transition to maintenance before a good couple months before you start actually trying. Because you have to remember too, with our menstrual cycle, our current egg being released in the cycle is the product of 3 months ago. So your body goes through this 3-month window of creating, I think that's the lifespan of the egg. So whatever your life, stress, all that looked like 3 months prior is what's happening this cycle. So I would say try to wrap that up by January-ish. If you're hoping to start trying March or April.
And listen, optimal health is optimal health. So we've talked about this again. It was a couple weeks ago. You did a full deep dive on, preconception, setting yourself up for success with pregnancy. But at the end of the day, it's the 5 pillars we talk about in every single episode: training, nutrition, mindset, movement, habits, and establishing a baseline, a lifestyle around those 5 pillars, a protocol for each pillar that you can sustain long term, that is going to build this into a healthy lifestyle. That's what that blueprint's for, those 5 pillars. It's not a short-term plan. It's not a short-term challenge. It's just, again, a blueprint where you pick something for each and you can sustain those protocols for the long term.
I've been loving the running plans. I completed Begin and I'm about to finish Extend. What would you suggest for someone who's not looking to race right now but wants to stay consistent with running? Repeating those 2 programs? Thank you. So Begin is our complete beginner run program. It's like a walk run program. And then Extend is generally what I recommend people do. After that, you have to have a base of running, being able to run for 30 minutes straight, and it brings you through a 10K distance. And if you're someone who's not really looking to race, it sort of depends. You can still do the half marathon program, and just not race. You can still work your mileage up through that program that way, or you can repeat I wouldn't repeat Begin because you already built that base, but you could repeat Extend and really focus on your speed and focusing on those speed sessions and increasing your speed and getting faster. So 2 options there, but know that none of the programs like the half marathon, even the 10K program, that's not something you have to do a race with. You can just train for that distance if you want.
So with that in mind, program coming out September 1st is the Evolve Hybrid. Those are the more condensed sessions, 4 days a week, upper lower split that we've been talking about. Have had a lot of people asking about it and also asking if we can incorporate a running routine within that. So the Extend program will be the one that's built into the Evolve Hybrid. And
making it really easy for you to track all the things in one spot.
Exactly. So then you'll be able to see your history. And if you're repeating that throughout each of the Evolve Hybrid cycles, you will be able to, again, see where you came from that previous workout, your last cycle through it, improve on that time. So that will be included in the new program.
All right, this one's another injury question, but more of a mindset injury question. So have either of you ever experienced an injury that has prevented you from exercising in some way? If not, do you have any advice for me who I just got an injury? It's preventing me from running my half marathon after 9 weeks of training. How do I mentally cope with that? That's rough and it sucks. And I think this is the same person who asked the question last time about the injury. Just a little bit more background here.
Committed to not doing the race after you mentioned that?
Yeah. So obviously it sucks that you can't do the thing that you trained for, but kind of 2 things I guess I would touch on here. Number 1, focus on what you can do right now. Injuries happen, life happens, things come up that are going to be preventing you from this end goal that you have. But, you know, there's so many ways that you can exercise. There's so many ways that you can move your body. And even if it's not your first pick at this moment in this season, that doesn't mean it's not beneficial. And maybe this is a great opportunity to focus on your strength or really dial in some other area. And two, like, you have to remember too, like with something like a race, and this is kind of how I approach training for a race and just training for anything. Yeah, you're training for this end goal, but the journey of getting there is really like what fires me up. Like, yeah, the end goal is cool and completing the thing is cool. But when I look back on every race prep that I've done, it's always thinking about the actual training runs and like the process of actually getting there. That was truly the most enjoyable part. So you went through 9 weeks of training that did not go to waste because you're not doing this. There's always going to be another race. There's always going to be plenty more opportunity to do the thing, but you know, focus on what you can do right now. And that's what I would do.
Learn to embrace the challenges. And the more you can do this throughout all phases of your life, the better off you're going to be. You know, when I am challenging myself in this way or in that way, I'm getting better. I'm getting stronger at these things. So again, like she said, control what you can control, find something else to kind of focus on in the short term, and then keep building for the next race once you do recover.
This question came from our anonymous Q&A box, which you guys can always drop your questions at any time in the description of each of these podcasts. Kefir for gut health. What are your opinions on that?
It's not going to be a game changer. Maybe it could be beneficial and supportive. Nothing against it, but I wouldn't use that as like a gut overhaul by any means. It's just, you know, put that in the category of, you know, fermented foods. And you got your sauerkraut, your kimchi, throw in your kefir, things that'll support it. It's nice to have as part of your protocol, your regimen, if you notice you're feeling better with it. If you don't really notice a difference and you've got some other things built in, if you are a kimchi lover or a sauerkraut lover regularly, you know, don't try to force everything in. Just go with what you like and you're all set. Keep it balanced.
There's no magical pill, guys, for anything out there. I think this kind of relates to the whole supplement, our take on supplements. Like, can they be helpful? Sure. Are they going to be life-changing? Probably not. And definitely not if you're not focusing on the basics and all those other areas of things that you should and can be doing on a daily basis.
Another thing, too, is to figure out your sources of that. So if you're pounding these added sugar, fruity, like if that's the kefir brand that you're getting, it's highly processed, you're not getting the benefit anyway. You want to find the least processed and the most basic, like the sour, plain.
Probably not going to taste
not
very
gonna
good.
Not gonna love it, but that's gonna be what's gonna help the most, if anything.
All right, what protein coffee do you drink? So I had.
I'm ruining
Josh
coffee.
is like throwing up.
I'm a coffee purist.
He doesn't drink protein coffee. I drank protein coffee. The first time I tried it, we were with First Form in Missouri. That was 2021. And ever since Brian made me try it that day at breakfast, I had it every day since then until kind of recently. And I would always use just a scoop of First Form level 1 in it. Just tasted the best, blended the best. I've tried other brands. They just don't really work the greatest in protein coffee. But we slept over Joelle and Brant's house a couple weeks ago, and Joelle she like frothed my creamer up and made me a nice, we both have Nespresso machines too. And it just like was so good. It was the change up I needed. And I haven't had protein coffee. I made it the other day and I was like, nope, I need to go back to this frothed creamer deliciousness. So I haven't had it, and I think that era has ended. But we've also switched to using ProMix for protein, and I haven't tried it with ProMix, but I've been really enjoying just making a whole milk, like chocolate milkshake. It's been hitting the spot this pregnancy so far. Just something about like, it's like a cold chocolate milk after my workout. It just is very refreshing. So protein coffee. But there's no like, you don't just buy protein coffee. It's literally just a scoop of protein and coffee. All right. Best things to eat before a 5 a.m. workout. We have differing opinions on this one, I think.
Keep it light. I'm a person who, if I eat like right before I lift, I feel very blah after. Sometimes I feel sick. Sometimes I feel nauseous. Other times I just don't feel good. Like I feel very tired and sluggish after my workout and, by the middle of that workout. So for me personally, if I'm lifting that early, it's just with electrolytes. I'm not even drinking coffee. Like I'll wake up, chug some electrolytes, give my body some time to kind of digest that and, hydrate a bit and then dive in to my workout. I know you don't like that.
Well, it's different for men and women too. I think I don't remember the exact research behind this, but something with women and it not being great for our hormones, cortisol, something. I'll look into that for a further episode. But it depends also what you're doing. So for a lift, I could get away with not having anything major and just like having a go-go squeeze packet and calling it a day, like one of Kai's little carb packets of applesauce. It's like 15 carbs, I think. You don't need anything crazy. Like a lot of people think you need to eat a full breakfast before this, and you really don't. But like I think anywhere from 15 to 30 grams of carbs pre-lift or run can be beneficial. Especially though if you are doing endurance. So if you're going out for a run or a bike ride or something like that at 5 a.m., you should have some type of fuel because carbs are a fuel source for an activity like that. You'll feel much better. You'll perform better. So have a little go-go squeeze packet or two. Have some sourdough with honey drizzled on top has been a go-to for me for my runs lately. One of the Humagel, it's like, that's my intra-run nutrition of choice, but you can also have it right before a run. It's similar to the go-go squeeze. It's just some type of fruit with chia that they like mash up together and they actually taste really good. But keep it simple. Some type of carb source. If you don't want to eat anything, have some type of carb drink like Gatorade or honestly any kind of quick carb source is going to be helpful to fuel you. But again, it's super individual. And if you are somebody who performs really great, you feel like you have a ton of energy, you don't really feel like you need anything major beforehand, and you're happy with how progress is going, then by all means, keep going. All right. In the most recent Q&A, you discussed tips on how to stick to a deficit after years at maintenance. Can you provide the tips for the opposite? I've spent a few years at an unintentional deficit / underfueling. When I try to increase my intake, I always feel overfull and I can't hit my calories.
Do it slowly. A reverse diet doesn't mean you have to add 250 grams of calories at each adjustment. It can be 50. It can be 100, whatever you can tolerate. And also look at where that's coming from. If it's 250 calories from, I don't know, a sweet potato. Well, that's going to be different compared to a sweet potato where there's a lot more volume involved in 250 calories when it comes to a sweet potato. So look where that's coming from. Use, you don't want to, go highly processed just to get a small volume for a high amount of calories, but
I think part of it too is you just have it's going to take time for your body to adapt. Mm-hmm. Like if you've been under eating for years, you're going to feel full from eating a few hundred more calories regularly. Like your body needs time to adapt to that, but it will. And eventually, once it does adapt, you will be hungry on those calories.
And think about how minimal 50 calories would be. That would be like a bite of something. That's like a tiny amount of peanut butter. I'm not saying stuff it with peanut butter, but what I'm getting at is if you go 50 calories per week, every month you're plus 200, plus 250 calories. So that will add up over time, and it's completely negligible as far as volume.
Yeah, that I would say a reverse diet is your best bet if you're not doing that. This is a great question on the flip side. Being on a cut for 8 weeks, or been on a cut for 8 weeks, reducing each week by 5 grams of carbs and 3 grams of fats, keeping protein the same, currently at 1640 calories, following the build program, 2 HIIT sessions. Scale hasn't moved a single pound in 8 weeks. What is wrong there?
You're doing a reverse diet.
Yeah,
your body's just slowly adjusting to fewer calories. It's not significant enough. So the opposite of what I just said, as far as making it insignificant, you need a more significant drop because your body isn't recognizing a deficit. It's just adapting very slowly to less and less calories.
And that's not putting you in a great spot because now you're eating a lot less calories probably, and your body's adapted to that.
You kind of got to start over.
That's the opposite of what we want to do. So in a reverse diet, a true reverse diet where we're going up in calories, we want our bodies to adapt slowly. Like that's the goal. But when you're trying to do a fat loss phase, you kind of want to make, I'm not going to say you want to make a huge adjustment, but you want it to be significant enough that your body's like, whoa, what's going on here, and you actually start to see the progress that you want to see. So I would say this is a very common mistake people make when they're trying to bring themselves through a fat loss phase. But yeah, that is the thing that you are doing wrong.
I think the most conservative adjustment I would make is like 200 calories, and that's conservative. Like it's typically 250, 300, maybe as much as 500, depending on where your numbers are starting. So yeah, that's 50 a week going down is not going to cut it.
Literally.
All
right. Really struggling to lose weight in my midsection and build muscle since having a miscarriage in April. I've been following the build program the last 3 months and nutrition is good. Could be better. What worked in the past doesn't now. So we obviously don't know what you're doing with nutrition. You'd say that it's good, but it could be better. So I'm going to guess that
it's not that good.
It's not that good. Something's off with your nutrition. If you're following Build, you're in a great place with training programming. So I would say that you're probably not in a calorie deficit, or it's not optimal enough to help you lose weight.
You're also not building muscle and burning fat at the same time unless your nutrition is perfect. That's very difficult to do. We've talked about gain-taining phases where you're not losing fat, you're maintaining fat-ish. You're probably still gaining a little, but you're gaining muscle faster. Unless you're using performance-enhancing drugs, something in that regard. Very few people are building muscle and losing fat at the same time, efficiently especially. So you got to pick one. Either do a gain-tain or actually go into a cut and focus on progression within that build program so you're maintaining as much muscle as possible, so keeping protein intake high and eating very well. Not could be better. It's got to be dialed in.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't know, like the other thing that I think a lot of people make a mistake with is, I eat healthy, I eat clean, I eat good. And then I ask them, okay, well, how many calories? What are your macros? And they say, I don't know. Tracking, you can't measure what you can't manage. Sorry, you can't manage what you're not measuring. I said that backwards. So if you have no idea what you're consuming, that is a great place to start. How do you force yourself to get up early to work out, cold plunge, or be productive?
That's a good question. I'm in a bit of a rut myself. And I will say yesterday, not today, yesterday I bit the bullet. I said, I didn't sleep well at all. Kai was up in the middle of the night. I think I was working late. It's been a rough stretch for me in regards to sleep. I felt great. I was tired physically yesterday, but mentally I felt a lot better than I have. And I think there actually is something to that. I don't remember where I read it, so I'm not going to, marry this and, put my reputation on it. But I believe waking up earlier is actually shown to be beneficial for your health. That might just be the fact that you kicked off your day by yourself and it didn't start with your kids or with your spouse or whatever, and you just had that alone time. But I believe forcing that to happen, getting up early is makes you more productive, makes you happier. That said, I've been in a rut. Like, I'm not going to lie. It's been very, very difficult the last month to get myself up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Do you know why?
Because of you.
I'm pregnant and you have pregnant symptoms.
Every time you have something going on, I feel it. I think it's a superpower. I think I have the ability to feel what those around me are feeling, and it's real frustrating. So I'm going to start sleeping upstairs. Because I was good. I was good for a while. Like, I would wake up at 5. I'd get my journaling in. I'd get my cold plunge in. I'd work for a solid hour by myself. It was just a great creative flow. That's a huge frustration for me right now. I'm still getting shit done, but it's such a more rushed, packed, jam-packed day. I don't love it. But tips for doing it is consistent bedtime. You have to wake up,
go to bed early,
and go to sleep at the same time. You have to look at your bedtime hygiene, your sleep hygiene. So what are you doing 3 hours, 2 hours, an hour before bed? An hour should be fully unplugged. Swap that for journaling, for reading. Stop working 3 hours before bed. If I'm on my computer doing an email or whatever for 10 minutes after 7 o'clock, you can kiss that night of good sleep goodbye. It does not matter for whatever reason. My phone, I'm usually okay. I don't know if it's because it's a bigger screen on the computer. Even with blue light blocking glasses, it's a no-go for me. Like, my sleep is fucked if I'm on my computer after 7 o'clock. So really pay a lot of attention to that. When is your last meal? When is the last time you're eating? And I literally mean a snack. If you have something like to snack before bed, huge impact. So you want to shut off food.
That's actually something my Oura Ring will pick up. Like, if I have lately I've been needing a snack before bed, just being pregnant and I'm starving all the time. Typically we'd stop eating at minimum 3 hours before bed, but my Oura Ring will be like, your resting heart rate lowered late last night. Did you have a snack before bed? And I say, yep, I sure did. But it impacts my sleep score, and it's crazy.
That's something I have to avoid for, managing the Barrett's esophagus symptoms. Like that's something I've done for a while. But when I noticed when I do push it instead of 2, if it's a solid 3 hours before we lay down and go to bed, I was sleeping through the night. I was sleeping much better. So for a lot of you who are working late, you get home late and I don't know when you're going to bed, but it's probably a smaller window. That will make a huge impact, and it's immediate. Like you will sleep better that night. Mm-hmm. You might be hungry this is the first time you haven't eaten right before bed and you go 3 hours, like you might be a little hungry. So that's going to throw you off, be a little uncomfortable the first couple nights, but the difference immediately it's fantastic. So focusing on that consistent sleep wake routine, getting sunlight as soon as you wake up or, within that 15 to 30 minute period. As far as getting the cold plunge and all those things in, that just relies on you getting up consistently at that hour. So when you get that consistency in, obviously everything else just becomes routine. It becomes habit. So you have to first establish that wake routine. Everything else falls into place from there.
And make it easy for yourself too. Like if I'm planning a morning run, I will literally lay out clothes, socks, shoes, any kind of water bottle. I have it filled and ready to go with my electrolytes in it, my sunglasses, like everything is completely ready so that when my alarm goes off, I literally don't have to think about a single thing and I just get up, get dressed, and I go. So if you're doing something like that, or if you want to be productive in whatever way, get everything, just make it as easy as possible for yourself.
All right, let's take one more.
All right, the last one, we'll end on this one. How do you feel about homeschooling? If you choose to homeschool, when do you think you will pull the trigger?
Don't ask my grandma.
Don't ask your grandma. We just talked about this last weekend with his grandma and she's not about it. I think, but like the things she was saying are things I think a lot of people are hesitant about when it comes to homeschooling, and that's the social aspect. But homeschooling in 2024,
it's a social aspect, but it's also who's doing the homeschooling. Like there are pitiful examples of people who are not good parents and they're homeschooling their kids and they're really not doing a damn thing with them. The kids have terrible manners. They're very poorly behaved. How do you expect that parent to be as a teacher? So those are not the humans who should be homeschooling. Not to be discriminatory in any way, but we all understand there are some dipshits out there who are terrible parents and they are going to be terrible teachers.
True. And I think in 2024, it's different to homeschool than it was even when we were in school. Like
There's
when
more
we were
resources.
in school, it was like you were weird if you were homeschooled. Like it was very rare. Now there are so many more resources, co-ops, different groups. Like it's way more popular than you realize. We're totally open to it. I mean, Kai's starting kindergarten next week at public school, and we'll kind of see how this year goes.
Yeah, if things keep getting weird, like it's not even going to be a question. He will be homeschooled. We'll be doing it ourselves.
All our kids will be homeschooled.
That said, like you said, it was weird when we were growing up. Weird in the fact that it wasn't normal. We've had people reach out since then, are like, "Hey, I was homeschooled. I'm a nurse. I'm a whatever. They went to college. Some do, some don't." But plenty of success stories, and we know plenty of people who are extremely successful. You can find them on Instagram. Extremely wealthy humans who are homeschooling their kids because they don't believe in the system anymore.
I just like the idea of our kids being with, like, we set up our lives to be with our kids and be together as a family as much as we can. So that is really the biggest thing that draws me to it, and the fact that we can, set them up for success and how we see fit for their actual success and whatever they want to do when they grow up. So
and not in a helicopter parent kind of way. Like Kai he's been a lot better as far as being independent. As far as socialization, like we've been home for the summer. He's only had a couple of years of preschool, but like we'll go to a playground.
He's more social than both of us.
I'm an introvert, but this kid can make friends with kids 5 years older than him in the middle of Disney World, like at the pool, at the resort at Disney last year. He just does a cannonball in the middle of this group of older kids and takes over their game, becomes the leader of whatever game they're playing.
He doesn't even say what his name is. He just like
he was there the whole time.
Completely immerses himself into.
It's like he was in there the whole time from the beginning, and they don't realize he wasn't there before, and boom, he's just part of the group.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fine. This kid, like if you treat your kids well and you give them all the confidence in the world and, make them feel good and, support them, and especially when you get into the educational stuff, but just that's how you raise happy, healthy, kind humans. And it's something that I don't see. I mean, our local school system, I would say has been decent. Like I enjoy growing up in it. It's not perfect. But a lot of communities, and especially as you start going down these weird paths, like I don't personally like the way things are taking place and the things that are being pushed. And, you know, we don't have to get into this on this podcast. You guys have heard me talk about it before, but we're not about it. It's not supportive. It's not conducive of raising, you know, smart, independent, strong, independent thinking humans. And I'm not going to stand for that with my kids. I don't recommend you stand for it with yours. If you believe in something strongly, run with it. Don't go with the norms. Don't be pressured into thinking something's normal when you know that it's not, or you don't see it being a positive influence on your child. We're raising the future. The world depends on our kids. And I firmly believe that generation, Kai and Cora's generation, is going to be the generation that has to save the planet. I don't think it happens with ours. I don't think it happens with the next one. I think it's that generation where it's going to be hit or miss. We're not going to be here or in the way that we're here right now unless those guys save it. So that's why we're not political, but that is why I've become more outspoken on certain things, as I feel very, very strongly. And if you start fucking with my kids, we're going to have a serious issue. That's where I stand on all that.
So we're open-minded. He's obviously going to public school this year, but we will take it day by day if we have to. And
very short leash.
We are very open to keeping them all home and confident that it will be great. So
I'm also going to build a compound. So if you guys are into that, we'll be doing
once again, if we disappear and you
charters,
don't hear from us,
we'll have a charter school. We'll have a little
going on.
Family compound, grow your own food, not in that weird culty kind of way, but I feel like you got to go backwards to go forward in this day and age. Like we have to come together as a community. Like we got to scale back to the old ways.
Basics. Anywho, if you have any questions for next week's Q&A episode, please drop them in the link in the description. It's just an anonymous Q&A link. And
if you're not in our Facebook group, those guys are the ones who are getting priority with these questions. We also share a ton of stuff. The community's been awesome. A lot of great conversations in there. That link is also in the show notes. So some added benefits if you want to hop in there. You do have to not apply. What is it? What do you call it? You have to request admission for it. You can't just enter
a couple questions. You just drop your email or whatever it is.
We'll accept it for you so you can jump in there. But a lot of good stuff in there, but we're going to wrap it up. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.
Everything you need is linked in the show notes.